Hello, my name is Xander. Welcome back to another Django Admin tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to go through the steps of building a custom admin button action. So what that means is that we're going to build a button in the admin area that's going to allow the admin to upload a CSV file, and then from that file, the data will then get inserted into a corresponding table. I apologize, I don't have a preview of this because I'm just going to do this as we go along, but hopefully you get the idea. So we're going to have an admin button in the admin area that's going to allow the user to upload a CSV file, which is going to have some data corresponding to something they want to insert into the database. And then on uploading that file, we're then going to automatically add that data from the CSV file into a table. So there are some interesting actions here that we need to cover or go through that we haven't done yet in the Django admin series. So first of all, we're going to override an admin template so that we can add a button so that the user can click on it, and that would take them to a custom admin page. So we don't necessarily need a custom admin page, but I thought it'd be a good idea to show you how to do that if you didn't know how to do that. So we'll click a button. That'll take us to the custom admin page, and on that page will be a form essentially where a user can upload a CSV file. So they'll press the button, upload their CSV file, and then once they've uploaded, the data in the CSV file will then get added to a particular table. So you can go ahead and follow this tutorial. I've left a link in the video description, and you can download this small project that's already been made so that we can build upon it. So this is a small application that is just something that I was using in a different example. We've got a project here called Core, our main core project, and then an app here called Bank. So our model is really simple. All we have here is name and balance. So it doesn't really matter the scale here to show you. Once you get the general idea, you can easily scale this up. So go ahead and make a virtual environment if that's what you work with, and then install Django and then run the server. There's nothing here on the home page. We're just concentrating here in the admin area. So there's a username admin, password admin, and we can go ahead and have a look at the bank app. And currently there's no data here. So what we now want to do is a little bit overriding here. We want to now add, for example, a button maybe above or below so that the user can click on that button. That'll take them to a separate page, and then they can use that form to upload their CSV file. So in our project, I already have a templates folder here. So I'm going to need to extend this now and override the admin template by creating a new folder here called admin. And then what I need to do is just follow this path here. So admin, bank, customer, and that's going to allow me to drill down to this section here and make a custom file, custom template for this page. So let's just right click on admin, new folder, and that's a bank. And then inside of here, you can see we've got customer. So let's go ahead and just follow this path. Bank, inside a bank, new folder here, customer. So I'm going to make a new folder there. There we go. And now I can go ahead and make a new file, which is going to allow me to add or customize that page. So that's going to be called change list.html. Okay, so we're just going to add something simple to begin with so we can see what we're working with. So first of all, let's go ahead and extend from the existing template, which is admin / change underscore list .html. Okay. So we've kind of essentially we're extending from this existing template. So now we can, if we want to, for example, we had to load any static for this page, right? And then we can then define now a block content, and from here, let's go ahead now and just add something. So this is what's going to appear at the top. Let's just type in hello world, I guess. I don't have any IntelliSense on here. So now we've got that. Now we want to load the rest of the page. So that's going to be called block.super. Okay, so that's basically just going to load the rest of the stuff, all the other things on the page. And then we can go ahead and end this block. There we go. Great. A mixture of different extensions here. Right, so then we've got the end block. Right, so now we've got that in place. Let's just go ahead and have a look at that. So I've saved that. So we should just have a heading up here. Okay. Did you forget to register or load this tag? Extend. Okay, let's have a look. Extends. That's why. Okay, so let's go back in. Refresh. Okay, so now we've got a problem here with block.super. What does it say? Could not parse remaining super from block.super. Okay, so it's probably just another typo. Yep. There we go. And now we refresh. And there we go. So now we have just hello world there. And that's all really that we need to do at this point, is we just want to add a link here, so that will then take the user to the next page we want to build. Just quickly pointing you to some of these tags that I've been utilizing. Here in the templates language reference in the Django project here, you can see extends. So it explains a little bit more about extends, and also block super. So if you need to get the contents of a block from a parent template, so remember we're extending, so we do want to get a block from the parent template, then you can see that this is going to do, as it says, the trick. So that's the whole point of this block super here. We're just getting all the other elements on the page that we want to access and display. So without it, we're simply not going to display all this other thing. So let's just add something here. I'll give you an example if I need to. I do apologize. You can see all these different actions, this block here essentially, including add customer, I think. So if I were to remove this here, you're going to see that I'm just extending from the original and adding my own thing. So if you wanted to completely customize this template, then that would be the way to do it, of course. But as you see there, I'm just grabbing the block.super so the other contents from the actual where we're extending from here, and we're just including that there. So we can just continue with it looking like the previous template. So that can be a useful trick to know if you wanted to add some additional items to an admin page. Right, so that's overriding an admin template. So let's go ahead and create a new custom admin page. So first of all, we're going to need a template for this. So just in admin here, right click, new file. Let's call this CSV upload.html. So this is going to be our template for our form, so that users can select and add their CSV file and upload it, so that we can then handle that data and save it to the database. So first of all, let's just extend from admin to give us the general admin interface. We're not going to do anything fancy here. So we're just going to extend from admin /base.html. So these are just templates that come baked in with Django. We're just extending from the admin /base here, and that's just going to give us our general admin interface for us to then add and customize as we wish. So we'll go for a block here. So let's just add a block. We call this contents or content, and then we go ahead and just end the block. Right. So we'll just add a div for now. Just type in hello there. Hello world. Okay, so that's our new custom page. So like any page in Django, typically what we need to do is add a URL for that page. So this is a custom page, so we need some way of adding a URL so we can actually navigate to that page. So we need to go into the bank admin, and we need to make some more customizations here so that we can connect, or first of all, create a new URL for that custom page. And then we're going to create a link so that then the user can click on that link from the previous page and go to our custom page. All right, so if you go over to the ref contrib admin, you'll find here that we have get URL. So the get URLs method on the model admin returns the URLs to be used for the model admin in the same way as a URL config. And therefore we can then extend however we like. So for example, here is an example where they've grabbed all the URLs and they've basically just added a new URL. So that allows us now to build a URL in the admin file here for our new custom page. So we know from the documentation we're going to need to create a new function here called get URLs, takes in self, and then we're going to grab the existing URLs. So URLs equals super.getURLs, and then we need to create our new URL. So we're going to give it a path. This is going to be a name of the function, self.upload.csv. So we're going to need to make that new function shortly. So to connect that up with our new path, so we know what to do when we go to that path. And then we finally go ahead and return new URLs plus URL. So we're just sticking together our new URL with the existing URLs. So there we go. So we now have a new custom URL path, upload-csv, and we've connected that to a view that we haven't created yet, which is essentially going to be a function that we're going to build here. So don't forget, as it's suggesting here, we need to import path. So we do that from Django.urls. And now we need to create a new function. So it's going to be called upload.csv. So let's go ahead and do that. That's going to take in self. And we're probably going to need to do something with the request. So let's bring that in too. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create a return. So we're just going to check to see if it's working with our new template. So we're going to return our render. So that's going to be request. And then we're going to need our template. So that's admin slash. So we know that's admin slash. So make sure it's in the admin folder, templates admin. Our CSV upload files there. So let's just go ahead and just make sure that's the case. Okay, so it's in the admin folder. So just double check that. And then there we go, CSV upload.html. So that's our template. So we're going to need to bring in render. So that's from the shortcuts. So that's our render. So that should hypothetically work. Now, of course, at the moment, we don't have a link to it. So we're going to need to go ahead and create that. So let's do that first. So that's going to be a simple case of just going into our customer chains list template here. So we're just going to swap this over for a link. So we're going to call this upload.csv slash and then upload a CSV file. Okay. So just make sure that the link here corresponds to the new URL that you've created. So here the path we've created here, upload-csv. So just make sure that is the same. And then let's just go back into our admin, refresh. You can see we have now upload a CSV file. Click on that, and that takes us to our new template. So next up, we need to build some sort of form so that we can upload a file. So let's go back into our admin page here. And let's just go ahead and build a simple form here. Yeah, so we'll build a new class. We'll call this CSV import. And I guess it's going to be a form, CSV input form. So we're going to go forms.form. So we're going to need to bring in forms from Django. Okay, so here we're just going to build a simple form. So CSV upload equals forms dot file field. Okay, so we're going to create a simple form which just has the forms file field, so it allows users to press a button. They can select from their computer the file they want to upload, and then they can press the button to upload it. Right, so that's that. So let's just bring this in now to our admin area here. So down here in the upload. So before we return, we want to return also now the template. So let's go for form equals and then CSV input form. And now that should, oh, okay, so that's the form. So we want to now actually get the data equals form okay, so that's the data, and we can send that across. Data or form, however you want to name it. So literally all we've done here is we've made a simple form with a file field to allow users to upload. We've just basically brought it into our project down here. We've got some context here that we're going to now move across, and that's going to then generate the form. Right, so with that done, we just need to now update our template here. So back in our CSV underscore upload template, that's in the admin folder. Let's just go ahead and change this. So we're going to bring in a form. We'll start a form here. Method's going to be post, multi-part form data, action dot. So when we actually submit the form, it's just going to reload the page. And we're going to capture the fact that we've posted something to actually navigate to that page, and then we can then perform some actions. So the form.asP, so we're going to present the form in p tags essentially there, if you're not familiar with that. Don't forget the CSRF token for security, and then a button here, upload file. That's pretty much what we're going to need there. So now we have our button that's going to now submit when a user uploads or selects a file to upload. So now when you go back into your template, we now have a CSV upload option. We're going to choose a file, and then we can select upload file. So now we can choose a file. We now know it uploads the file, then reloads the page essentially. So we need to capture that upload now. So in our admin file here, let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, let's just check to make sure that we are uploading something. Let's go for if a request method is equal to post, then we're going to perform some sort of action. So let's just print, for example, action is post. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is just double checking to make sure this is working before we continue. So if we do upload something, that's going to be captured. So remember, the page will reload. That would be a post request to this page, to the admin page. And we're basically going to pick that up as someone's actually posted something to that page. And we're then going to print action is post. So obviously at this point, we know that the user has uploaded something. So we're then going to perform an action on that file eventually. So let's just check that first. So we're going to need a CSV file. So I've opened up here Notepad. I am in Windows, so you can utilize whatever tool you have in your operating system. So let's just go ahead and just add some data. Now in my table, I've only got 2 fields. So I'm just going to add 2 data points here, and then file, and then save as. And I want to select, for example, here, all files. And then I want to name this, say, data.csv. Okay, so it's important that you select all files here, otherwise it won't actually save with the file extension. You can go ahead and also add the double quotes here just to make sure it does actually save it as a .csv file. Otherwise what you end up having is data.csv.txt. So I'll save that to my desktop. Okay, so that's all good. So now that's a CSV file. That should be absolutely fine. So let's just go ahead and try this. So when we upload a file, it should just print out action is posted, and that's just going to test to make sure this is working okay. So I'll go ahead back into my admin, select data, that's the file that I've just built, press open, upload the file, and it looks like we've captured that. So action is post. So everything seems to be okay here in terms of uploading the file. So now we can go ahead and perform actions on the file so we can grab the data and then save it to our database. So first up, we need to grab the data. So CSV file equals request.file. So we can get the files from the request. So the users sent the data. We're now going to capture that. So we utilize CSV upload. Okay, so here our class CSV upload equals forms.file field. So that allows us to get the data from our form. Right, so now here we're just going to make sure that data is nice and friendly. The best way to ensure that all imported characters are UTF-8. So there's no surprises here with any of the data that is going to be passed across from the file. And so we're going to put that in a variable here called file data. And then what we're going to do with that is we're going to split that. So what we need to imagine here, if you're not familiar with this is our data so far. It's just 1 and 2. Now, that's going to potentially just be read as a string. And what we want to be able to do is extract and access these individual data points here. So because we want to save that in the first field of our table, and we want to save that individually in the second table. Sorry, the second field of our table. So you might have many more, of course. So you want to be able to extract the individual items here and add them to our database table. So split is going to basically take a string, in this case our string here, and it's going to then convert it into a list. So by doing that, if you remember, these are now going to be indexed. So we're going to be able to access as a list these items from its index point. So this is going to be index 0, that's going to be index 1, and so on and so on. So we're literally just we're just taking a string, essentially converting it into a list so we can access these individuals' data. And we'll see that shortly. So let's go ahead and now create a loop. So now we're going to create a loop, and essentially in this example, I'm just going to show a simple use case here of just adding this data to the database. Now we could put this into a form, put this data into a form and then validate it and then insert it into a database. There's a few different ways we could handle this, and I'll let you explore that by yourself, but I'll just show you a simple example. So what we're going to do now is go ahead, fields equals X. So apologies here. So what we're doing here then is we've then converted our data now into a list. And now what we're going to do is we're going to iterate through that list. So each item is going to go into X, and then we're then going to then move through that data. Now, apologies, what I've done here in actual fact is I've split not by individual. Apologies if this doesn't make any sense. So for example, if I had multiple lines of data that I wanted to store into the database. So these are just values that I'm going to store into individual fields into my database. Now remember, my database only has 2 fields. So let's just do this. So name and balance. So let's just actually build some data now. So name 1, the balance is going to be 10. Name 2, the balance is going to be 12. And so on. Okay, so this is the data that I'm going to save into my database. So it's got 2 data points here, name and balance. So I want to insert name into name and then the balance into the balance. So apologies. So going back to this admin here, what I'm doing here first is I'm just splitting up this data into individual, into a list essentially, but as this is the first part of my list, and this is a new line. So I'm basically just splitting up this data from essentially this string into a list line by line. So what I'm going to do now is iterate over line by line, and on each line I'm going to split again. So this time I'm going to take one line by line, iterate over it, but I'm going to split this via the comma, and now I've got 2 items in a list. So this is now this line now has been converted into another list, and I'll be able to now access these individual components via this index. So this is 0 and this would be 1. So we can see that in action now. So for example, I can take fields and I can select 0, position 0, which is going to be name 1, and then position 1, which is going to be 10. So I'm going to iterate over this because multiple lines here. So this is going to print out down here, name 1, 10, name 2, 12. So that's what's going to be printed out. And of course, I can now utilize this type of format to actually insert into my database. So let's just see this in action first. So I'll go ahead and just upload my data again. I've saved it, upload file. Okay, so if we go back now here, you can see that's exactly what's happened. I've managed to grab all my data, grab my data here, name 1, 10, name 2, 12. So you can see that we've got these individual data that we've selected. So now iterating over this file, I can now just insert it into the database. So that's just going to look like this. So we're going to have customer.objects update or create. So I'm just going to use update or create. So if the object already exists, it's just going to create a new object. Else, if the object exists, then it's not going to create a new object. But if it doesn't exist, then we're going to make a new field, or a new entry, in our database. So we've got name. So remember our model here, name and balance. So name field 0 and then balance field 1. And that's in our new list that we've generated here. So we're able to access the individual components from our CSV file. So now we've got that in place. That's essentially just going to do that. So we're going to need to bring in our table. So from .models, import customer. So that's our table. And that should now insert the data. So let's just go back to our admin. So just double check then. We've got we'll just remove everything so we can see this data being inserted. Yep. Okay, so we want to upload a new file. We want to add some more data. So let's choose our file. So that's the data file that we've created earlier. Press open, upload the file, and there we go. So let's go back and have a look at our data, and you can now see our data has been inserted into our database. So that's really the basic blueprint to build a button to allow users to upload a CSV file. Now, thinking a little bit broadly here, there's obviously lots of issues here potentially, and this code probably needs expanding slightly. So for example, if the user uploads the wrong file, maybe we need to handle that, for example. So we could do that by a little bit of code here. So we could just do CSV file .name ends with .csv. So if, for example, the file someone tries to upload isn't a CSV file, we could utilize the Django message framework, for example, and send them back a response. So let's just do exactly that. So we're just bringing from the contrib messages. We need to bring in messages and then the HTTP response redirect from .http. Okay, so I don't think we're using response. There we go. So we're bringing those two tools in. So hopefully this should now, when we try to upload a file that isn't a CSV file, it's just going to return a warning. So here I've just selected a PNG file, chosen a file here, and I press upload, and you can see now it says the wrong file type was uploaded. So you might also want to handle a redirect after the data has been added. So for example, here we could, after the for loop here, we could just maybe reverse the admin index. We could expand this, of course, and add the model, reverse the model that we're utilizing to extend this URL here, but that's just another example. So we just need to bring in a reverse there from the URLs. Go ahead and do that. So now when we upload something, it will then just now redirect the user back to the, in this case, just the home page. So that's a good start. If you're thinking about adding this function to your application, there's obviously more to this. So for example, what do we do? How do we handle if the data isn't correctly formatted, for example? That's something that potentially we need to deal with. So here, like I suggested, we could, for example, put this data into a form, validate the form, and then insert it into a database. That's another way potentially we could work. But this is a good baseline to get you started. So I do hope this has given you some insight into how you might generate a feature such as this one shown in this tutorial. Thank you very much for listening, and I do hope to see you in the next tutorial.